President Joe Biden has selected Jersey's senior Senator Bob Menendez to lead immigration reform efforts in Congress. Menendez is the lead sponsor of the bill that would create a pathway to citizenship for the country's 11 million undocumented immigrants, including nearly 500,000 in New Jersey. How will Menendez gets Biden immigration reform passed? Who's according to you, who's eligible for DACA?
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see, first of all, to see the text of that bill. Supposedly, they'll be releasing the actual text of the bill next week, but right now, all we have is a summary, and Bob Menendez will be introducing the bill in the Senate. Also, it will be introduced in the House. In terms of DACA, right now, there's about 700 some odd thousand people who have DACA, the Dream Act people who are receiving protection. Those are people who have been in the United States prior to 2007. They were 16 or younger when they came here. They have at least 2 years of college. They haven't had criminal convictions. Some of them have been in the U.S. military. So the thought is maybe this group of people could be legalized. That's 700,000 out of 11 million. There is bipartisan support for legalizing dreamers, as they're called. And so I do think that this is the dilemma again, is do we want to peel the dreamers off and take those Republicans and those maybe Democrats who are less supportive of immigration and peel those people off and let them pass a law for the dreamers, but again, leaving then almost 10 million, more than 10 million people behind. And if we do that, then presumably those people who were only supporting the DREAM Act will not be willing to, the Congress people who are willing to support the DREAM Act are not going to potentially support a more comprehensive bill. So this really is the dilemma that's faced Congress for years. We're still facing it. There's a very narrow majority in both the House and the Senate. Not all the Democrats will be supportive of comprehensive reform. So it's going to be, interesting academically, but it will be nail-biting in terms of many people who are here who are really hoping to get some relief after many years in the United States.
All right. One of the objections, I hear a lot from people, especially from Republicans, regarding this DACA immigration reforms. They always say, shouldn't we focus on helping people born in our country first? What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think that's really a false argument. And I do think it's possible to come up with arguments that would call for more restrictive and maybe more punitive immigration measures and do it intellectually honestly. But I think that argument that either we help people who are not born in our country or we help dreamers or other non-citizens is really a false dichotomy. There's no reason why helping dreamers in any way harms American-born people. And in fact, there's a lot of evidence that non-native-born Americans, dreamers, other immigrants, have contributed greatly to our economy. A huge percentage of healthcare workers, something like 25% of healthcare workers who are dealing directly with the pandemic are non-native-born Americans. A large percentage of people, I think 28% of all new businesses, at least prior to the pandemic, were started by non-citizens. Those businesses are employing, Americans and green card holders and everybody. Businesses like Google, for example, was started by a refugee. So, there's a lot of evidence that helping immigrants come to the United States, if we do it strategically, is beneficial to our economy, and that benefits everybody.
Yeah, you talk about refugees too. So what changes are expected for refugees, in current Biden's administration?
Well, this was a real controversy, and one of the issues that propelled President Trump's candidacy back in 2015, 2016 was refugees coming, particularly from Syria at that time. Like, there really was a prejudice against refugees from Syria, claims that, no, they're terrorists, they're not being vetted, the United Nations is choosing these people and sending them to us, all claims which were false. Refugees and asylum seekers, too, by the way, are actually subject to more vetting than anyone else who comes to the United States. So if you're concerned about security issues, you can think about all the people who come here to go to Disney World, the B visitor visa people, people who come here on H-1Bs. Those people are coming here and they're doing so and they're contributing to our economy. They're contributing to raising our country up and helping with the pandemic. And so, in terms of security issues, I think that's again a false claim that somehow refugees are somehow more of a danger to us than anyone else who's coming to our country. And also, of course, right now there's something like 60 million refugees and displaced people throughout the world. We, the United States, are a world leader. We should be the world leader on this issue. We can't be the world leader just through words. We have to be the world leader through action. And I think when you're talking about issues of conflict resolution and peace, issues of interrelationships between countries, refugees is a part of that problem, and it's going to get worse, of course, with climate change, and we need to be taking the lead on that if we expect to have any credibility on the world stage as a leader of other nations.
All right. One of the objection I always heard from, when I talk to people, they always say, if we legalize all the people in United States, how would we secure the border to prevent unauthorized immigration in the future?
Yeah, and then one issue about legalization that people bring up also is, well, if you create this legalization, then you're creating an incentive for other people to come to our country. They'll know if they can get across the border, they'll be able to stay here. I think the response to that is, one, that the border actually is quite secure. It's very difficult now to enter the country illegally, to sneak across like you could maybe 20, 25 years ago. It's not really the border wall that Trump built, whatever that was worth. It's just that there's all sorts of technology at the border. There's a border patrol. It's more difficult to get across. There's been more cooperation from Mexico and some Central American countries. So I think the border is pretty secure in terms of borders. Whether legalizing will create a magnet for more people to come here, I think depends on the message that we send. And I think the message probably needs to be, look, this is a legalization for people who've been here for a certain number of years, who are already here. It's not benefiting people who are coming here now.
Mm-hmm.
And, people who are coming here now who don't have a legitimate claim to enter the country will be turned back.
Perfect. And my other question is, what do you think, what changes are expected for immigration right now? I mean, what kind of changes you are expecting, and what kind of changes Biden and his administration is planning to do, and what kind of changes are expected by your clients or customers?
Yeah, I mean, the Trump administration really did a lot to build what was called the virtual wall, which was, they tried to build an actual wall, and to some degree they did. But the virtual wall was making all sorts of bureaucratic changes that made it much more difficult for people to come to the U.S. and remain here, including things like reviving the public charge rule, which was a rule created in 1882 by actually quite a racist Congress at that time to try to block poor people from coming to the United States. They revived that rule and created a bureaucratic barrier for people to immigrate based on, for example, marriage or family relationship or job. So the first thing we're expecting is that some of this will be rolled back. The Biden administration has announced that it will be studying these issues. It's given itself a time frame, in most cases about 6 months, to look at this. So we're hoping that some of these negative changes will be eliminated. There's also been some real problems at USCIS. I don't know if you remember this, but last summer, the agency essentially said, we're about to go bankrupt. We're about to lay off 75% of our workforce. I mean, that was real. And they really did have that sentiment. I knew people who worked there at the time who essentially felt they would be losing their jobs any day. Something magical happened and that didn't come to pass, and the agency continued to function, but it's not functioning as it should. Things are very delayed. Cases that should take 6 months are taking years. Receipts that you should get in a couple weeks are taking months. So the first thing we're really hoping to happen is that when new leadership is sort of able to take charge, which they're doing now, that they'll start to improve some of these bureaucratic problems. In terms of going forward, the Biden administration has announced a different attitude toward non-citizens, which is a more welcoming attitude, and hopefully that will be translated into policy. Right now, of course, we have to deal with the pandemic, and there's travel restrictions related to that. But immigration and non-immigrant people coming to the U.S. contributes mightily to our economy, and it will contribute to the recovery of the economy post-pandemic. And so, a new attitude toward people from other countries, a new openness toward the rest of the world, I think will be very beneficial to our nation.
Yeah. And my last question would be, what is your message for our immigration community who are anxiously waiting for good news from Biden's administration? What is your message for those people?
Yeah, I mean, I'm optimistic. I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic. I have to say that I'm not super optimistic for immigration reform in terms of 11 million people, but I do expect that at the minimum we'll see some substantial numbers of those people able to receive benefits. I do expect we'll see a better situation for people who are waiting. I think we'll see a better situation for people who are waiting at the U.S.-Mexico border. Some of those people will be processed and brought into the U.S., and that I think will speed up as time moves along. So I think it's important to be optimistic, and we have to have hope. But I do also think that the new attitude they've signaled, the new people they're hiring that we're watching go into the administration, are all people who want to do the right thing. They want to follow the law. They believe that due process of law is important, and that people shouldn't just be expelled from our country without a fair hearing and without them receiving the rights and the legal due process that they deserve. So I'm hopeful that we'll see some positive changes. I think we're already hearing anecdotally about people being released from detention who are non-dangerous people. So we're hearing some positive news already. I do think it's going to take time, and I think it's important to recognize that this is not something that can be changed immediately. The Trump administration didn't change it immediately either, by the way. They did issue some really harsh orders that were stopped by courts for the most part. But I think some patience is in order, but I do hope that we're going to see positive change, but we also have to continue to work and to push this administration for the things that we think are important.
All right, great. Jason, if any of our viewers would like to contact you or consult with you, how can they go about doing that? Please share your contact information or website or whatever information you have.
Yeah, the best way to find information about me is through my website about asylum called The Asylumist, which is ASYLUMIST.com, asylumist.com. I also have a website, you see my name there, which is ZubowLaw.com. You can just Google my name, you'll find me. I specialize in political asylum. I specialize in family immigration, other types of immigration, appellate litigation. So yeah, we're here. We're happy to help.
All right. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you for coming to my show and sharing your knowledge and views with us. Viewers, I hope you like the show today. I would appreciate it if you would share your suggestion and comments. Thank you so much. Have a good day, and God bless United States of America. Thank you, Mr. Jason, for coming in my show. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Thank you so much.
Thank you.